minority shareholders are concerned with Fortis having the ability to direct how you vote. So now you said that you voted once on your vote.
Categorically, Mr. Gerald, I can say that Fortis cannot direct any of us to vote against our fiduciary duty in the company. And we've expressly put that in our legal agreement with them, and they understand. I think it's important for members of the press to understand that our economic payout is not determined on whether we vote with Fortis. Our economic payout is determined on how well the company does. And if the company does well, all shareholders do well. Whether I vote for Fortis or vote against Fortis does not determine the economic payout.
I like what you're saying. But so you're saying you always acted in the best interest of the shareholders.
Absolutely.
That's your position. And has always been, right?
Yes.
Going forward, that will be your position too.
I can't change. I've only been brought up one way, and I sleep better at night.
Okay. There's one to this, probably read a number of us. We read this letter to the editor of the Business Times from Associate Professor Mark Yuan-Ting. He's, as you know, he's a very prominent commentator on corporate governance champion. He says that he's suggesting that you and other directors may or could have breached your fiduciary duties, and the authority should look into this as to whether there have been any breaches and action may have to be taken. What is your response to that?
We were very concerned, and I am very concerned after reading that letter. The letter is a very serious letter. We have sought legal review of that letter.
Legal advice.
Legal advice. But I think, as is my style, I've sought to meet Professor Mark. Perhaps I can learn something from him. So I'm basically seeking an appointment to have lunch with him, and I hope to do that shortly, so at least I can meet him face to face.
To find out where is the breach or possible breaches.
Where he's coming from, why he's saying, because I don't see what he's saying. And then, you know, again, perhaps suffice that I leave it as that because the matter is under legal review.
Yeah. But the position you're taking and you've taken is that you have never committed, or none of you have committed any breaches, and it's not likely to happen in the future as well.
I mean, Mr. Gerald, the share price for Parkway has gone up 147% in the last 5 years. We have a $5 billion company, including the REIT. I think all shareholders, minority, significant, and otherwise, have benefited. I've told you basically at the board meeting, it's very difficult for one shareholder to press his view that would then subsequently oppress minority shareholders. It's all been by consensus, generally, at the board. So I think it's very difficult, and if someone is out there and wants to prove me wrong, I wouldn't say I'm smart enough, I'm perfect enough, but as far as I can tell you, I think we've always acted in the best interest of all shareholders.
You see, minority shareholders at the moment are confused. They're happy that, you know, two important players are coming forward to bid for the company, and we can't ask any questions on your preference or your views because you're bound by the SIC rules. So members of the press, on what we have discussed this afternoon, you may ask questions because we are not here to answer any questions on the office.
Nisha.
Could I just clarify, because in the IFA that was sent out, it said that Fortis will have the right to direct how each excluded director should vote at shareholder meetings. But then in the letter that you sent out to Parkway and that was released on SGX, you said it said that Fortis can actually engage you in discussions. So I was just wondering if the IFA was wrong, and if it was wrong, why wasn't it correct?
I think, again, I don't have the documents in front of me. There are two aspects. As a shareholder, they can direct how we vote in shareholder meetings. But as directors of the company, where we're dealing with fiduciary matters of the company, we can engage, we can discuss, and typically what's happened in all board meetings before we go in, we'll sit down and we'll discuss with all directors. These are the resolutions going up, but these are the things that we're going to talk about. As chairman, when I sat there, would you have any concerns? Would you like me to raise issues? Try and engage everyone. But as shareholders, we had what I call as a fiduciary out. You can express your desire to me. You can direct me as to how you'd like me to vote as a director. But by the way, I've got a free pass. I will vote however I like as a director. So the two parts is a shareholder and a director. I don't know, Dill, you want to clarify?
I think the IFA is correct in the way you put it, because the way it works is that at shareholder meetings, prior to shareholder meetings, there's an engagement discussion. If there's no consensus, then the three directors will vote with Fortis at the shareholder meeting. So what does it mean? This just summarizes everything and say that ultimately at the end of the day, there's no disagreement. You can direct them to vote at the shareholder meetings. So there's no difference actually with what's being said there as a summary of the position as against what Richard has mentioned in terms of the process of engagement with the three of them.
But I think what Mr. Gerald and other people have raised is really as a director.
Yeah.
Is someone directing you to vote in their favor, perhaps against the interests of minorities? And the answer is someone can direct me, but I'm typically not good at taking those types of directions, and we have a legal carve-out for that.
You got currently Fortis at 25.3%. How many directors are there on behalf of Fortis? Four directors. You got Kazana at 23.9%. We've got
Two.
Newton, Templeton and Kexing together 16%. Any of them have a...
Kexing, I think Mr. Ho is the director there.
Okay, alright. So, yeah, that's been the worry, whether or not there is any direction to the directors, which we will not...
Kexing is over 5.
Say again?
Kexing is over 5%.
I don't...
Kexing has got 4 plus.
4 plus.
Now, any other questions?
I have one. Hello.
Mark.
Mark Lowry here, Investor Central. We often talk about the law versus the perception. In hindsight, would you do things differently?
Actually, no. We've actually discussed the independent director issue at the board and at the nominating committee many, many times. And when I first came on board, everyone says, oh, you're an independent director. And my own view is, how can I be independent? And they then educated me on the US system and what independence means as far as a board director in Singapore is concerned. So if you look at all the annual reports from day one, I've been independent until now. As recently as when Fortis came in, I then revisited it with legal counsel. Are you sure I'm independent? And I was assured I was independent, and they ask you to fill in a box, they ask you certain questions, and I could answer yes to those questions, which meant in the eyes of the corporate governance regulations today, I'm still independent. Now, if the review committee on Code of Corporate Governance decides to change the definition of independence, I perhaps will no longer be characterized as independent, but I can assure you and I can assure investors, I will continue to act independently and perform my duties as a director as best I see fit in the interest of all shareholders, not any shareholder. So call me executive, non-executive, independent, non-independent, it really doesn't matter in my mind. My duty is to the company and to the shareholders.
So would it have been wiser to have a cup of tea with Mr. Gerald before all of this began, rather than now reacting to a lot of this?
Again, I tend not to gate crash parties, and the moment Mr. Gerald invites me for tea, I'm here. But I know that he's a busy man, and I don't invite myself often for tea with him.
I have not read his annual report either.
Right.
He
But
says he disclosed these agreements in the annual report. That's
Yeah.
interesting, which I wasn't aware of. But generally, minority shareholders, the fear is what we are addressing here. You see, the fear is whether there has been an exercise of independence on this.
I can understand the fear.
Yeah.
But I think you must also recognize that this is a large professional board.
Yes.
I think if anyone were not exercising their fiduciary duties on the board, we have many independent directors and very prominent individuals sitting on the board, someone would have said something.
Right.
I think all of us view our roles on the board importantly. We view our integrity as being paramount, and I don't think we would risk that.